going to do today, some real simple stuff. We're going to look at the test we did yesterday, make a couple changes to that, and then add some ones with IWM and QQQ and see if we can find anything tasty in that. And then tomorrow will be a fun one, and that we will look tomorrow at different types of asymmetric hedges based on the strategies that people employ. So it'll be a good one. But today we will continue kind of our classical tail hedging. So if you let me share my screen real quick. Okay, can you guys see that? Cool. So what we did yesterday, just to review, this is looking during the COVID crash. So we bought every Monday, we bought a put, a 1 delta put, 60 days out, and allocated 1% of our portfolio. And we got out. The only exit criteria we got out at was 1,000%. And we required 2 profit targets, all the slippage and everything to make it realistic. And as you can tell during COVID, a hedge worked well during the crash. No surprises there. So what we wanted to do first real quick is let's test this in some other symbols. So let's go to Qs first and just change that. Just change the Qs. See if that changes anything. So, and what else I want to do? I started with 1 million in the other one. I want to start with 10,000 for this test. So with this test, what's interesting is you have the CAGR isn't quite as good with this one. And this is interesting. So your average trade, days in trade, is 35 days. This is a very small sample set. So with the bid, this is the one area with a crash where you might not want to ignore trades with wide bid asks, because during a crash, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to have wide bid asks. If you're selling premium, you should do that, just to try to make it more realistic. But if we're looking at asymmetric stuff, you shouldn't toggle that. There we go. So 4,600% annual growth rate on that. And I can attest to Qs, at least, that during COVID, you would get some fills like that on days. So don't feel too bad if it looks crazy. So I'm going to save this real quick. It's delayed to 28th, I believe. Yeah. We're going to put hedge, show test with others, save it. And then we are going to share that right there. Let's do IWM and see. Same thing, put 60 days out, 1 delta. Okay, this too is a good starting point for us. Share that with you. That's right. That's right. I mean, when in doubt, Castle, you can always normal wide bid ask, normal premium selling strategy might also save you from some nasty losers that would occur, though, also, would it not? It's true, and you can toggle back and forth. Obviously, they both have a good win rate. It's just that during those moments of just massive illiquidity in the market, ignoring those is kind of like if you have a 1 delta put, crap's getting e-liquid if you're making 1,000% on it. That's almost a guarantee. And so it's one of those that you could toggle back and forth, you could test, but for testing purposes, to kind of get an idea of what would happen during liquidity with low delta, I think it's fine for the most part with this type of strategy to not toggle that. Although you certainly could if you wanted to try to just make it as realistic as possible. I guess to that point, I think in some ways realistic as possible with this stuff is actually untoggling it, But again, to each his own. So I shared the IWM one. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do one more, but we're going to use SPY this time. And run that. Again, a pretty good, you're just going to win during COVID. Okay, shared that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the SPY one, but we want to take the SPY one and we want to go a little farther out. So what we want to do is we're going to say for this, we're going to go to January of 2018 and we're going to run this. And this is where it starts to get more realistic, is through time, Okay. So as you can tell, it did really well on January 8th. I believe that was Volmageddon, those days, those couple weeks. And then it didn't do great at all. And then it did great during the crash. And then it didn't do great at all, right? So overall, it's a losing strategy. So what we want to see now, this is one of the things that's interesting, like we talked about yesterday. We want to try to make this as cheap as possible and make the return as great as possible. That's kind of our hedging requirements. So what we're going to do, the first step is to say, let's take the profit target down. Let's say we did a 500% return. What would that look like? This one's going back 4 years, so it takes a minute. Okay, it did worse. So you're losing just as much, but you're not gaining as much when you win. Right? So let's do this then. Let's go 1,500% return. Let's go the opposite direction and say, if we're going to lose a lot of times, we want to go ahead and get the majority. We want to get the most bang for our buck. Okay, right back to it. So this is the joy of it. This is like the Bob Ross painting. These are happy accidents. There's no mistakes, just happy accidents. That might be revealing my age. Did you guys ever watch Bob Ross? before your time. Yeah. Getting old. Getting old. Yeah. Yeah, and to be fair, I didn't watch him a lot. I did watch Mr. Rogers a lot. Big fan of Mr. Rogers. He's the GOAT. He's the children's GOAT. That's the way I look at him. But then, yeah, I'd watch Mr. Rogers and Bob Ross come on and be like, well, nap time. I would prefer to nap than watch him. Okay, so that's not making a difference. So this is where it gets, okay, on to the next thing. We're going to keep it at $1,000 profit target. But now what we're going to do is we're going to say, let's play around with different VIX environments. So I only want to enter these trades when VIX is under 20. Right? And why would that be a case? Why would that be something we test out? Well, it's cheaper, right? Which is one of our criteria. Insurance in general is cheaper because of less market movement. Okay, so that improved it, right? Getting in only when VIX is not elevated helps us a lot. We're paying less and the profit percentage is still the same, right? So the next step we need to figure out is, can we go lower on the VIX? Is there a pop if we say we only want to buy VIX when there's a 16, max of 16? So 21.25, 4.9 CAGR. That's what we're trying to compare it against. Retro, mission accomplished. This is what we were trying to figure out. Now this is crazy. This is the joy of it. When I talked about yesterday, there's cookies in here. We just found a hedge that's an asymmetric hedge, like a far out of the money probability of getting to it. And we found a positive carry over time. So that's super interesting, right? So I want to take this now and I want to do this with SPX. And I want to see what comes of that. I have a feeling it's not going to work as well, but we can talk about that if that's the case. I could be wrong. Right. So you just didn't have enough money to trade that style. We can do that here in a second, Castle. It's a good question. Okay, that's pretty sweet. So let's do this. Let's lower the profit target. Castle, what are you thinking? What should we do? 500? Okay. Nope. Nope. Which is interesting. Why do you think that's the case? So loud. Just so loud. Sorry, guys. Yep. Yeah, it's not taking care. It's not taking the potential of it. Now that's interesting. The profit goes up again, although I don't think that's as much as the 1,000%. So let's go back to the 1,000%. Excuse me, didn't mean to just sneeze into your ear at a loud volume. Okay, so this one, you placed it 60 times, you won 10% of the time, 6 wins. But those wins were so great that they paid for the entirety of the trade, right? They paid for the entirety of the situation. So, well, that's a great question. That's a great point. Let's do this real quick. Let's make it 2,500, because this points to the thing that I'm trying to say with tail hedging that I want you guys to be able to jump in and do as you're testing these strategies. Is I think probably the best situation is going to be allocating different percentages to different VIX environments. That's my guess, as I found it. Let's look at so you won 3% of the time. That was COVID, the COVID drops. So you made that amount. So I'm interested now. I'm just going to do it just for the sake of it. I think it was 3,000 was about the percentage, was the height of it. To the question if it's unrealistic someone would hold that, that's where I think it's interesting to test the idea of different allocations at different VIX levels. Because if you buy at a 30 VIX and you make 1,000%, you paid a lot for it, and so obviously it's crashed. So you there's not much more to go at a certain point at a high VIX level. Okay, so that's positive. That's interesting. So you won 2 times in 4 years, but to those points, you did really, really well. So I'm going to go back real quick and go back to 1,000, kind of the sweet spot. And then I want to look at one more thing we could do of like a portfolio of it. Let's name this one hedge gold VIX under, what do we say, 16? Not 16. I'm going to share that. So now I'm going to we're going to mess around with it for a second. So that was a VIX of a max VIX of 16. Let's say we put 3% of our allocation at a VIX that's under 16. So that doesn't work out. It has to be a lower amount for it to have the payoff over time. This makes me interested because we could say a VIX under 14. What does that look like? Oh, Castle, you're crazy. I like it. We will do it. Okay, remember max VIX 14 for me. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. Great job. So we're going to create a new time. Hedge VIX under 12. 28. Share the test with others. Click the little box. And so that's a cool one. So what we're going to do then is we're going to go to test Hedge VIX under 16. And what I want to do with this one is I want to save it. VIX between 12 and 16. And I want to do one more real quick and we'll call it for the day because I'm going to work on some stuff for tomorrow that I think you guys will like. So we save that. I'm going to just send it to you again out of excitement. Now, I want to do one more. And what we're going to do is we're going to say VIX over 16. And we want to use 1%, but we want the profit target to go down a lot. We want to only double our money when it's this high. That did not work. And you can tell this last year is just absolutely is what kills you. So let's try this. Let's go super low on it, just because I want to test it for the sake of putting this in there, a VIX over 20 environment. Okay, that didn't work. So one more. Instead of a profit target, we don't want a profit target. What we want is if the market moves 50 points down. So we want to make it based on market movement rather than on anything else. Okay, so that don't work. So we're going to abandon plans on that. That'll be personal research time for you. But what we want to do real quick, just for the sake to finish it up real nice, is we're going to do a simple hedge. Oh shoot, did I not save them? Okay, those two. 1 and 3%. And let's save that real quick. We want to do it 2018. January 1st, 2018 to yesterday. Let's run that for a minute. That's going to take a second. Real quick, since you guys have the room, what strategies, if you can be on tomorrow, do you want me to try to figure out a hedge for? What are the strategies that you guys trade? Oh man, you guys are trading my stuff. I like it. Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. A lot of DCs are doing really well. I had I had way far out ones, too far out, overnight, and I got pretty lucky. Although I bet now they're killing it, but I wouldn't have held all day. So I got even even way out of the money ones did well this morning for some reason, and then they crashed. But um, yeah, I can definitely do that, guys. So we'll look at some condors and then hedging with them. This it'll be a little harder because we're trying this idea of an asymmetric, but yes, in general, you could absolutely do that. So we'll look into that tomorrow, and then how to trade hedge the calendars. Um, so let's look at this real quick. What a what a weird graph. Uh, what a strange beast this is. Um, so we can look through that. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it. I'm going to let you guys look through that because this can greatly be improved upon. Actually, let's just do one more thing. I don't know if this will work at all, but let's do one more and then call it because I want to show you guys something that's interesting to me. And this is the other part we were talking about with these type of trades. Is you always have to kind of put it with your strategy. So this is a stupid long play. Like this is just I don't trade this, but this is trying to emulate like a long only portfolio. So you're buying every day that there's a day that has exactly 365 days away. We're going to open a 50 delta call that's 365 points out, and we're not going to do anything else. We're just holding it, just the equivalency of shares, right? And so from 2013 to 2022, it's done really well. Let's go back to 2018 just real quick and see how it's done the last couple of years, just so we can, when we're putting it in this portfolio, we can compare it. It's kind of, yeah, that's kind of a leap. What they would do, Castle, though, is they wouldn't do the 50 delta. They'd probably do like an 80 delta or 90 delta, and then they would sell shorter dated calls against it of like a 70 or 80 delta, or a 60 or 70 delta. So they're saying they're buying in the money leaps versus like a 50 delta leap. That's normally when they say leaps, they're far in the money. So done pretty well the last couple of years. Just buy and hold. We're going to replace the simple long there. So now let's do this. Let's go back into our portfolio, and let's say we're going to do those same dates. And we are going to do these here. We're going to do this. We're going to do, make this $1 million. And we're going to say 10% of our capital goes to this. So $100,000 of that goes to that. Actually, let's make it more just for the sake of it. 25% of our capital goes to that. And then 1 and 3 goes to that. That's our hedge. So a long, and then a hedge. Let's see what happens. Okay. So you have a pretty massive drawdown. I bet that's the long more than anything else. But this does, quite well over time. And you can play around with it, but it gives you an idea. So actually, what we're going to call this is 928. And do that, and do that, do that. We're going to do that. Okay. We're going to say 928. And there we are. So I hope that gives you guys some ideas of like how to play around with it, how to like put a couple different strategies of asymmetric stuff on, along with what it would look like with another portfolio, like a long only portfolio. So you can play around with allocation percentage in that. You can change the you guys have seen it. There's a million different things you could do with it. But I hope it gives you guys some fun stuff to think about. And like I said, tomorrow will be a fun day because we'll talk about the specific strategies we're trading and how we would trade those as far as like an asymmetric hedge and stuff like that. So, any questions or anything? Oh, thank you, Castle. Matt P, sorry, we're just now ending, but jump on tomorrow. We'll be back at a different time to be determined. But I just shared the portfolio in the chat, so we'll go from there. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a good day, and we'll plan on seeing you tomorrow. Yeah, sounds good. Catch the replay, Mike. Appreciate you. See you soon.